A lonely wind swept across the dark surface of the planet Zyronine. Its sky was painted with dull gray clouds, hiding a pale sun that barely warmed the ground. Sharp black rocks covered the barren land, and nothing moved except the cold wind. In the middle of this lifeless world, a group of alien soldiers stood watch. They were tall, with scaled green skin and large black eyes. Their armor was thick and heavy, painted with blood-red markings. Each carried a long plasma rifle, ready for any threat. Their leader, Captain Thralic, paced near a metal scanner. He was bored. Nothing exciting ever happened on this forgotten planet. It was only used to store old war supplies. No sane creature would come here. But then the scanner started beeping. Small red light blinked. "Captain, we have something," a soldier said nervously. Thralic frowned. "What is it?" "Ship. Human design. It just entered orbit. Small, lightly armed." Thralic's mouth twisted into a cruel smile. Humans. Weak creatures. Always begging for peace. Easy to crush under his boots. "Prepare a greeting party," he ordered. "If they're lost, we'll help them." Into a prison cell. Minutes later, the aliens watched the human ship land. It was an old model. Scratches along its silver hull showed it had seen many battles. Smoke rose from one of its engines, clearly damaged. A long ramp hissed open. Silence followed. The aliens aimed their rifles, waiting for a group of human soldiers to rush out. But only one figure stepped onto the ramp. It was a human woman. She was of average height, wearing a dark gray suit that hugged her slim frame. Her black hair was tied tightly behind her head. On her back, a small pack. No heavy weapons, no armor plates, no guards. Captain Thralic raised an eyebrow. "Just one?" She walked slowly down the ramp. Her boots crunched on the rocky ground. Her face was calm, almost bored. Her eyes bright. Gray scanned the aliens without fear. Thralic laughed, a harsh rattling sound. "Where is your army, human? Or did they all run away and leave you behind?" The woman didn't answer. She just looked at him, her head tilted slightly, as if studying an insect. Annoyed, Thralic signaled his men forward. Two aliens marched up to her, aiming their rifles. They paused. Their helmet screens started blinking. "Captain, our bioscanners aren't reading her. No heartbeat, no heat. That's impossible," Thralic snapped. "She's standing right there." One alien reached out a clawed hand to grab her arm. In that instant, she moved. Or did she? To Thralic, it was like a ripple passed through the air. The woman was there 1 second, gone the next. The soldier who tried to grab her froze. Eyes went wide. Then, without a sound, he vanished. Armor, rifle, everything. Gone. The other alien jumped back, firing his plasma rifle in panic. Ow. Bolts of bright blue energy tore up the ground, sending shards of rock flying. But the woman was suddenly behind him. She laid a gentle hand on his shoulder. He stiffened. Then, like dust in the wind, he simply faded away. His scream was trapped inside him, never reaching his throat. Silence fell again. Thralic's blood ran cold. He lifted his own rifle, claws trembling. "Fire! Fire now!" he shouted. The rest of the alien squad opened fire. Plasma bolts lit. Up the air, scorching the ground and slicing through thin mist. When the smoke cleared, she stood there unharmed. Not even her hair was out of place. Then she took a slow step forward. A soldier screamed and turned to run, but vanished mid-stride. Another raised his rifle, only to freeze, eyes wide in terror. Before flickering out of existence, one by one, they all disappeared. Captain Thralic was alone now. His heart pounded so hard he felt it might burst. He tried to back away, tripping. Over a rock and falling hard, the woman stopped in front of him. She leaned down, her face close to his. Her eyes seemed to glow softly like moonlight. "Humans are weak? Yes?" she whispered. "What?" Her voice was cold and calm. Thralic couldn't answer. His throat locked up. She gave a small, sad smile. "It used to be human too. and everything went dark. The command post of the alien base was alive with alarms. Red lights flashed across the metal walls. Screens showed warnings in sharp alien letters. Officers shouted orders, trying to make sense of the chaos. Commander Dravtek stood in the center, his long tail flicking nervously. He was an older warrior, his armor decorated with silver medals from past battles. But now, fear danced in. His black eyes. "What happened to Captain Thralick's squad?" he barked. A nervous tech officer turned to him. "Commander, we lost all signals. Their heart monitors and suit trackers just stopped. No distress call. No bodies found."
I
Clenched his claws. "That's not possible. No weapon does that. Show me the last footage." The main screen flickered. It showed shaky images from one soldier's helmet cam. They saw the human woman standing alone, calm as stone. Then she moved, or seemed to vanish. Soldiers screamed. One by one, the camera showed their bodies flickering and fading, as if pulled into shadows, then static. The feed went dead. Dravtek felt his scales grow cold. How can one human do this? Humans are fragile, weak. Scientists hurried over. "Commander, we checked her ship. It is empty, no hidden troops, and scans show no heavy weapons. She is alone." "That is not possible," Dravtek roared. His voice shook the chamber. "Send drones. Find her. Burn every rock on this planet if you must. I want her ashes in my claws." The search begins outside. The alien patrols moved carefully across the rocky plains. Small flying drones zipped through the air, scanning every crack and shadow. They found signs of the missing soldiers, rifles dropped on the ground, helmets lying empty. But no bodies, no blood, not even footprints leading away. A squad leader, Lieutenant Krax, clicked his mandibles nervously. "Keep eyes sharp. If you see anything, shoot first." Suddenly, one of his soldiers stopped. His eyes grew wide. "Lieutenant, where is Graftal?" Krax turned. Just a moment ago, Graftal had stood right behind them. Now he was gone. Only his rifle remained, resting quietly on the stones. Krax's skin crawled. "Form up. Stay close. Do not wander off alone." Ghost in the mist, thin white mist, began to drift across the ground. The soldier's scanner struggled to read through it. "Switch to thermal," Krax ordered. They did. On the screens, each soldier glowed bright orange. But then, a shape appeared in the mist, a faint blue silhouette. Cold, it moved smoothly. Between the soldiers, too fast, too silent. "Fire!" Krax shouted. Plasma bolts tore through the mist. Rocks exploded. But when the smoke cleared, there was nothing. Then a scream. Krax turned. Two of his men were gone. It's gone. Rifles clattered to the ground, still warm. He tried to call for help. His radio only hissed with static. The commander's horror back. At the base, Commander Dravtek watched the chaos on dozens of screens. Small green dots. His patrol squads were blinking out, one by one. "This is madness," he whispered. The scientist beside him trembled. "Commander, we found something else. Data from old human war records. We think she might be part of Project Silent Veil." Dravtek narrowed his eyes. "What is that?" "Secret human experiment. They tried to merge human bodies with shadow energy from dark matter fields. They wanted perfect assassins who could move unseen, pass through walls, vanish into thin air." Dravtek's heart sank. "So, she's not really human anymore." The scientist swallowed hard. "No, Commander. She is something worse." The silent hunter outside the base walls, Ilara, stood on a ridge. Her eyes were calm, her face still, but shadows curled around her feet like black smoke. She looked down at the alien structures, the towers and lights. She could sense the fear inside, every heartbeat, every trembling breath. She closed her eyes. The shadows around her thickened, spreading across the ground like a living sea. The final moment of calm inside the command post. Dravtek suddenly felt cold. The air grew heavy. Lights dimmed. Screens flickered. "Seal all doors," he shouted. "Arm all defenses." But deep down, he knew it was too late. The shadows on the walls stretched and moved, twisting into shapes that didn't belong in this world. They reached out with long, dark fingers. One by one, the lights went out. Dr. Ab's single quotes tech drew his blade, breathing hard. He heard a soft voice. "You thought humans were weak?" Then silence. The air above Zyronine shimmered with heat as a massive ship broke through the thin clouds. It was a war cruiser, dark steel plates bristling with heavy cannons and missile racks. Red lights glowed across its hull like angry eyes. Inside the command deck, Warlord Karvek stood watching the planet below. His thick arms crossed over his armored chest. His face was a cruel mask of scars and jagged teeth. Beside him, a small officer reported nervously, "Lord Karvex, we have lost all contact with the base. No life signs detected." Karvex growled, a deep sound from his chest. "So, the ghost stories are true. A human shadow killing my soldiers." He turned to a rack on the wall and lifted his heavy exo-armor helmet. With a hiss of steam, he locked it over his head. Suit systems came alive, humming with power. No more hiding. "I will end this myself." Landing for battle moments. Later, Karvex's ship touched down outside the ruined base. He stepped off the ramp with a thundering weight. The ground cracked under his metal boots. Dozens of armored guards followed, weapons raised, eyes scanning every corner. Behind them, drones hovered in careful circles, sensors scanning for any trace of Alara. Karvex pointed a clawed hand at the silent doors of the base. "Find her, flush her out. Bring me her shadowy head." The first strike inside the dark halls. Shadows moved quickly. Cameras caught flickers of Alara's form. Here 1 second, gone the next. A squad of soldiers marched carefully into a wide chamber. Their leader spoke in a low growl. "Stay close. Watch each other's backs." Then a shadow slid across the floor, wrapping around one soldier's leg. Before he could shout, he was pulled into the darkness. His rifle clattered on the ground. Panic swept the group. Plasma bolts filled the air, lighting up metal walls. But Alara appeared behind them, eyes glowing silver. With a wave of her hand, the air itself twisted. Soldiers flew backward as if hit by an invisible wave. They slammed into the walls, their bodies going limp. Facing the warlord, Karvex watched it all on his helmet screen, his teeth bared in a hungry grin. Finally, something worthy of my claws. He stomped forward, smashing through the heavy doors with a blast of energy. Sparks and metal shards flew everywhere. Alara stood on the other side, waiting calmly. Her face was blank, her hands loose by her sides. Karvex lifted his massive plasma cannon and fired. A roaring beam of light shot toward her, burning the floor into molten slag. But when the light faded, she was gone. A whisper came from his side. "Is that all?" He swung his arm, firing again. The blast tore through a column, bringing down rubble. Dust and smoke filled the room. The power revealed suddenly. The dust pulled inward toward Alara. Her body was surrounded by swirling black tendrils. They wrapped around her like a living cloak. Karvex charged with a roar, swinging his armored fist. The ground cracked under his steps. Alara raised one hand. The shadows rushed forward, slamming into Karvex like a giant wave. His massive body was lifted off the ground and thrown into a wall. The metal bent around him. His suit sparked, systems screaming warnings, but he pushed himself out, rage burning in his eyes. "You are no ghost. You bleed like anyone else." Drew a glowing blade from his back, energy dancing along its edge. With a howl, he leaped at her, swinging the blade down. Alara moved faster than thought. She slipped aside, the blade cutting only air. Her fingers touched his armored chest. That instant, the armor froze. Frost spread across it, cracking the steel. Karvex tried to lift his arms. The suit groaned but did not move. Alara leaned close, her voice soft, almost sad. "Your empire thought humans were weak, that we would always bow. You were wrong." Stepped back. Shadows erupted from beneath Karvex's feet, wrapping around him like chains. They pulled tight, crushing his armor inward. Sparks exploded. Carvex let out a deep roar that turned into a gurgle. Then it was silent. His body hung in the air for a moment, then fell heavily to the ground. The quiet after Alara stood still, breathing slowly. Her eyes dimmed from silver to gray. The shadows around her relaxed, sinking back into the floor. She looked down at Carvex's broken armor. For a moment, regret flickered across her face. Then she turned away. Her figure blurred, fading into the dark corridor, leaving only the empty echo of her steps. Outside, the alien soldiers who survived ran for their ships. Their warlord was dead. Spirits were broken. The shadow had won, outside the ruined base on Zyronine. The alien landing fields were alive with chaos. Giant transport ships stood ready, engines glowing hot as they prepared for emergency takeoff. Hundreds of soldiers pushed through the dust, trying to board the ships as fast as they could. Their faces were twisted with fear. These were hardened warriors, used to crushing weak planets without mercy. But today, they had seen something that no armor or plasma gun could fight: a human that became shadow. Slipping past every defense, a desperate retreat, Captain Mivrek, one of the last surviving officers, shouted at his troops, "Load everything, weapons, data cores, fuel cells, take it all. We leave now." His soldiers rushed to obey. Some dropped their gear in panic. Others kept glancing over their shoulders at the dark entrance of the base, afraid the shadow would walk out at any moment. High above, escort fighters flew in nervous circles, scanning for any strange energy readings. Their scanners buzzed and beeped with small errors, unable to lock on to anything. A silent approach, then the wind changed. It became colder, sharper. The dust on the landing field swirled in tight spirals. At the edge of the landing zone, Ilara stepped out of the dark. Her eyes were calm, her face blank. Shadows trailed behind her like a living cape. A soldier saw her first. His scream was loud and broken. There, the shadow. She's here. Panic exploded across the field. Some soldiers fired wildly, bolts of plasma streaking through the sky. Others dropped their weapons and ran. The ships tried to escape. The giant transports roared as their engines powered up. Flames burst from their exhaust ports, kicking up massive clouds of dust. One by one, they lifted off the ground, heavy landing, struts pulling in. Captain Mivrek stood on the ramp of his own ship, eyes wide. He slammed his fist on the control panel. "Go. Get us out of here. Now." The ship's pilot obeyed, pushing the engines to full power. The transport lifted higher. Leaving the ground behind, Mivrek let out a shaky breath. They had escaped. They were safe. The end of hope. But then he felt it. A strange heaviness in the air. The ship shook. "Alarms blaring, sir." The pilot screamed. "Something is pulling us down. We're losing power." Aside, Alara stood with one hand raised. Her fingers curled slightly, and dark lines of energy raced across the ground. Wrapping around the landing field like black veins, the ships above jerked in the air. Their engines roared louder, fighting to climb higher. But they didn't rise. Instead, they trembled, then began to sink. One by one, the massive ships dropped from the sky, slamming into the ground with crushing force. Burst out, sending shockwaves across the field. Soldiers screamed as they were thrown through the air. Captain Mivrek's ship crashed last. It skidded across the rocks, rolled, and exploded in a giant ball of fire. The quiet field, when the dust finally settled, the landing field was littered with broken metal. Flames burned low. A thick smoke curled into the gray sky. Alara walked through the wreckage. Her boots stepped over twisted steel and cracked alien helmets. Here and there, small fires hissed out as she passed. The heat sucked away by the cold shadows at her feet. She looked up at the dead ships, her expression unreadable. Her eyes glowed faintly, scanning for any remaining threats. But there were none. The field was empty. The defenders of Zyronine were gone, either dead or fleeing into the dark corners of space, never to return. A single survivor far off, Hidden under a chunk of wreckage, a young alien soldier peeked out. His claws shook as he tried to stay silent. His eyes were wide, tears running down his scaled face. He watched Ilara pass by, shadows swirling around her like dark water. For a moment, he thought she might see him. But she didn't stop. She only moved on, her face calm, her steps slow. When she was far away, the young soldier finally breathed. In his heart, he knew he would carry this terror forever. And he would. Warn the galaxy. The legend begins as Ilara reached the edge of the field. She paused. The cold wind tugged at her dark hair. She looked up at the stars. Somewhere far away, other worlds waited. Other armies weed. They all believed humans were weak. Her lips moved in a whisper, almost too soft to hear. Let them keep believing. That until it's too late. Then she stepped into the shadows and vanished, leaving only silence behind. The alien base on Zyra 9 was now a fortress under panic. Heavy doors were sealed. Defense cannons stood ready, pointed at every corner. Bright spotlights cut through the darkness, hunting for any sign of the human shadow that haunted them. Inside, the main hall commander Dravtek stood with his top officers. They wore extra armor plates and carried plasma rifles with high-energy packs. Around them, dozens of auto turrets buzzed, scanning for any movement. Dravtek's tail lashed the floor. His eyes were tired, sunken with fear. But his voice was hard. We will end this ghost tonight. She cannot hide from us forever. A scientist next to him nodded nervously. Commander, we have set up traps across the base. Heat sensors, motion beams, and sound nets. Even a shadow cannot cross them. Drafted gave a sharp nod. Good, lure her in, and then we crush her. The bait outside, small patrols moved again, this time on purpose. They wanted Ilara to see them, to follow them. Every few minutes, one soldier would pretend to be alone, looking weak. Others waited nearby, hidden behind walls, their weapons locked on the bait. In a dark alley near the storage yard, a single alien stood. He shifted from foot to foot, pretending to be lost. His heart raced. Suddenly, a soft chill brushed past him. The air felt wrong. His eyes darted around, raised his rifle. Who's there? No answer. Then, from behind him, a whisper. Looking for me? He spun around and fired. The plasma blast burned a hole into the wall. Smoke rose. But no body fell. Instead, a soft laugh echoed through the alley. Shadows on the wall twisted, dancing like living things. The alien tried to run, at once. Bright blue beams snapped on all around him. The heat sensors and motion traps roared to life. Dozens of spotlights locked onto one point, revealing Ilara. Standing calmly in the center, the kill zone high above, snipers locked targets. Auto turrets turned with a loud hum. Hundreds of weapons aimed straight at her. Commander Dravtek watched from a control tower. His claws clenched tight now. Fire everything. A storm of plasma bolts, laser beams, and micro-rockets exploded around Ilara. The ground shook. Flames roared. Smoke rose in thick black columns. The cameras went white from the light. Dravtek let out a sharp laugh. Finally, it was over. But then, the smoke cleared. The impossible sight to Ilara stood exactly where she had been. Her suit was spotless. Her hair did not move. Her eyes slowly lifted to stare straight into one of the cameras. Dravtek felt his heart stop. Keep firing. He screamed, do not stop. But suddenly, all screens went black. The auto turrets died with a low whine. Lights across the base flickered, then died. The hum of power generators faded into silence. Total darkness swallowed the base, the shadows. Strike back in that darkness. The soldiers tried to turn on their helmet lamps. Some worked, shining trembling beams across the walls. Then they saw it. Shadows moved against the walls, darker than dark. They crawled like thick smoke, sliding along. The ground, curling around their feet, soldiers fired wildly. Plasma bolts lit up terrified faces. But each shot only hit empty air. Then the shadows rose up, forming into hands long and thin. They wrapped around the soldiers, pulling them back into the walls. No screams escaped. Just a faint choking sound, then silence. Dravtek's last. Stand inside the control tower. Dravtek backed away. His officers were gone. Taken, only he remained. He drew his long blade, its edge glowing with electric charge. His eyes darted from corner to corner. From the ceiling, a voice drifted down, calm, icy. You wanted to crush me, Commander? Dravtek spun, swinging his blade, sliced through nothing. Then she was behind him. Her breath was cold against his ear. Now you will see what real fear feels like. Dravtek tried to turn, but shadows wrapped around his arms, pinning him. His sword clattered to the floor. Slowly, he was lifted into the air. His vision blurred. His last thought before everything went black was simple, full of horror. Humans were never weak. They were only waiting. The base on Zyronine was dead silent now. No lights, no guards, no alarms. Just the cold wind moving through empty halls, carrying the faint scent of burned metal. Small service drones floated through the corridors, trying to repair power lines. Their soft lights revealed armor pieces scattered on the floor. Rifles lay where soldiers had dropped them. But there were no bodies. Not even a drop of blood. The lone scientist deep in the research wing, an old alien scientist named Vikler, worked alone. His long fingers trembled as he typed commands into a console. He had locked himself inside the lab, steel doors sealed. Tight data screens showed 100 warnings. Security systems offline, defense network silent. Vikler's mind raced. What was that creature? He pulled up the last footage from the outer traps. Frame by frame, he studied the human woman. The terrible discovery, he watched her step into the trap. Watched hundreds of shots slam into her. Each plasma bolt burned through her, yet left no wound. He slowed the video even more. What he saw made? His scales crawl. Her body seemed to split into black mist. Tiny shadow threads wove through the attacks, passing between plasma bursts as if she were smoke. Then, her form pulled back together, whole and unharmed. Vikler whispered, "Impossible." He opened a file taken from old human war records. It was heavily encrypted, with warnings in harsh red letters. But he cracked it anyway. At the top of the file was a name. Project Silent Vela? Project Silent Vela? The documents were short. Almost like they were trying to hide secrets even from themselves. But Vikler read enough. Long ago, during the Human-Draken Wars, UN scientists had found a way to combine dark matter energy with living flesh. They created soldiers who could become part of the void, slip through light, sound, even time itself. Perfect assassins. Perfect spies. But the cost was high. Many humans went mad, their bodies twisted, their minds broke. The project was shut down after war ended, or so everyone thought. Vikler sank back in his chair. His hands shook. This woman, not human anymore. She's the shadow itself, the calm monster outside the lab. Alara walked slowly down the main hall. Her boots made no sound on the metal floor. Her face was calm, her eyes blank, almost sad. Small drones buzzed near her. They scanned her with bright blue beams. Their systems tried to lock on, to trigger alarms, but each drone flickered, sparks popping from inside. They dropped to the floor. Dead. She passed by them without even looking. A brief mercy. Alara reached a large window that showed the planet's dead surface. She stopped and rested her hand on the cold glass. Her reflection looked back at her. For a moment, her eyes softened. She whispered, almost too low to hear, "Is there anything left of me?" The shadows around her paused, as if listening. Then, they curled around her feet again, silent protectors. The final message in the lab. Vikler backed away from his console. His heart pounded. He turned and ran for the secure comms booth. He had to warn someone, anyone. The Empire must know. He slammed the button to broadcast. "This is Dr. Vikler of Zyronine. The human is not human. She is a weapon, a shadow creature born from Project Silent Veil. Do not face her. Evacuate." A soft darkness slid across the booth. The lights dimmed. Vikler spun around. Alara stood inside the booth with him. How had she entered? The door was locked. Her eyes met his. They were sad. Almost gentle. I don't want to hurt you, she said quietly. But you will tell them, and they will come.
I'll glare.
To his knees, tears welled in his old eyes. Please, I have family. Ilara's shadows wrapped around him like a blanket. His eyes closed. When they opened again, he was gone. The booth was empty. The haunting truth. Outside, Ilara stepped back into the hall. Her face was still. No anger, no joy. Just silence. Above her, the base's cum system crackled with ghostly static. Then her own voice echoed across every speaker. Project Silent Veil. Test complete. The sound faded.
Oh.
The hall was quiet again. Only the cold wind whispered through, carrying the last trace of her words. Far above the ruined planet Zyronine, small human scout ships drifted quietly in space, their dark hulls blended with the void, almost invisible to normal scanners. Inside, human officers watched glowing screens, tracking every signal from below. Captain Royce, a calm man with sharp blue eyes, stood with his hands behind his back. He stared at the data. One by one, the life signs of the alien forces had vanished. Is it done? He asked softly. A young operator turned from her console. Her face was pale. Yes, sir. No enemy forces remain on the planet. All ships destroyed. Or fled. The base is silent. Royce nodded once. Could prepare to receive her transmission. The call comes in on the main screen. A secure line opened. Static crackled. Then Alara's face appeared. She was still on the surface, standing among the wreckage. Her eyes were cold and bright, shadows curling faintly behind her. Captain, Quinn reporting, she said in a calm voice. Sector 9 is cleansed. No survivors with command clearance remain. Royce studied her carefully. And local data cores, enemy records, destroyed. They cannot trace us back. Excellent. Royce allowed a small smile. Then Phase 2 will begin as planned. The chilling plan other officers around the bridge listened closely. One whispered under his breath, Phase 2. Lara's expression did not change. She waited perfectly. Still, Royce leaned closer to the camera. His eyes glinted. The Council will be pleased. The Empire believed humans were too broken by past wars to fight again. Now we will take their colonies one by one, silently. No great battles, no proud armies, only shadows and fear. A low voice from another console added, by the time they realize what's happening, half their territories will be gone. Alara's quiet struggle on the screen. Alara's eyes flickered. For just a heartbeat, sadness crossed her face. Her hand touched her chest as if checking for something. A pulse, maybe, or a soul. Then it was gone. Her face turned empty again, eyes hard. Royce noticed. Any complications on the ground, Captain Quinn? Ilara shook her head slowly. No. Only memories. Her voice grew softer. They called us weak. I wonder, were we weak before we became monsters? Royce did not answer. He only gave a polite nod. Return to the fleet. The next target will be sent to your ship. And Captain, well done. Ending the Kalila gave a slight nod. For humanity, she whispered. The screen went black. Silence filled the bridge for a long moment. Then Royce turned away, his boots clicking on the metal floor. Prepare the next operation. We move to Sector 12 at dawn. His officers moved quickly, typing commands, sending signals to the rest. Of the hidden fleet, alone on the surface back on 09, Ilara stood among the burned ships and twisted metal. The wind pulled at her hair. The shadows around her moved restlessly, whispering in voices only she could hear. She closed her eyes. Her breath was slow and deep, as if she were fighting to calm something inside her. For a moment, the shadows pulled back, and she looked simply human, tired, small, lone. Then her eyes opened again, cold, bright. The shadows wrapped around her like a cloak. She stepped forward, and the ground beneath her feet darkened, swallowing her up. In a blink, she was gone, the galaxy in danger far above. Hundreds of human ships waited in the darkness, silent, hidden. Ready, the galaxy still believed. Humans were broken, too weak to stand against great empires. Too small to matter. They would soon learn the truth, not through giant armies or shining battles, but through whispers in the dark. Through worlds that simply stopped answering calls. Through fear so deep that no war would ever be needed, the Shadow War had begun. Many weeks later, the galaxy seemed strangely quiet. In dozens of sectors, alien worlds had stopped sending messages. Trade ships vanished without signals. Small outposts were found empty, their lights still on. Meals half-eaten on tables, but not a single soul remained. Rumors spread like fire. The humans had returned.
Ow.
But these were not the humans of old. Wars, with big noisy armies. These were ghosts in the dark, leaving only fear behind. On a lonely world, a distant planet with green skies and blue fields, two alien farmers worked in silence. They had heard the stories about shadows, about whispers, about whole colonies. Disappearing every night, they locked their doors tight and prayed the stories were just lies. One evening, as the twin moons rose, one farmer looked up. Far in the sky, a faint line of lights moved, small ships flying in perfect silence. His mouth went dry. They're here. Ilara's small ship above the planet. Ilara's personal craft drifted alone. Its dark hull reflected no light. Inside, Ilara sat in a small chair, shadows swirling slowly around her legs in front of her. A holoscreen showed the planet's surface, simple villages, peaceful people, unarmed, innocent. Her fingers hovered over the controls. With one word, she could send the darkness down, end this world in total silence. Her heart ached. A single tear slid down her cheek. Is this who I am now? A memory returned suddenly. Her mind flashed back. A memory from before Project Silent Veil, before she became a creature of shadow. She saw herself as a child, running through bright fields on Earth, laughing, holding her mother's hand. Warm sun, clear skies. The world felt safe back then. That feeling crushed her now. Her breath shook. Choosing silence, Ilara wiped her tear away. Her face turned cold again, eyes shining softly in the dark. She touched the cum. This is Captain. Quinn, the planet is of no strategic value. Recommend we leave it untouched. A voice came back after a long pause. It was Captain Royce. Approved. Move on to next target. The cum cut off. Silence filled her small ship once more. The last? Whisper. Ilara leaned back. Shadows curled gently around her, like careful hands. No longer hungry for blood, she whispered into the empty air, not knowing if anyone or anything was really listening. Maybe one day we won't need monsters like me. Then her ship turned, engines humming low. It vanished into the dark sky, leaving the peaceful planet behind. The galaxy watches on the ground. The two farmers stared upward. The strange line of lights faded into the stars. One of them let out a shaky breath. Maybe it was nothing. They turned back to their small home, never knowing how close death had truly come, the end of the shadow's path across the galaxy. Human ships moved quietly. Some worlds would be spared. Others would vanish into silence. It was never loud. It's never obvious. Just shadows passing through the night, deciding who would live, who would be lost. And at the center of it all walked Ilara, once human, now something else. Still haunted by old dreams of sunlight and laughter, still hoping deep inside that one day the shadows could finally rest.